Greetings. Here we are at tea time again. And today I'm having some Chinese black tea given to me by a colleague in China from Tsinghua University, and I'm having it in a Chinese teacup. Delicious tea. Why Chinese tea today and in a Chinese teacup? Well, today is Chinese New Year, and I would like to greet everyone around the world, and particularly the few thousand people in China who are taking this class in a Chinese version by saying, 新年快乐. I hope that's recognized as my way of greeting people Happy New Year in China. We have about 7,000 people signed up on this course in the English version, and a few thousand signed up in the Chinese version. A good number of you have had some trouble accessing some of the materials for week 3A and 3B. They are up online now, and today, week 4 materials will go up, and every week from now on, week 5, 6, and 7, and 8. Don't worry if you feel that you were late or may have missed a deadline if you're interested in a statement of accomplishment, because you can finish those materials, finish those requirements as you wish, as you go through. And the class will extend about a week after the end of the class for people to get in all of their assignments if they wish to earn a statement of accomplishment. So read carefully what you need to do if you want a statement of accomplishment, and then do those assignments as you can over the weeks, and make sure you get them in by the end of the class or about a week after the class. And we'll be reminding you of those deadlines. During recent weeks, we've been talking about girls' education, HIV and AIDS, and female genital cutting, female genital mutilation or cutting. And there's been a lot of discussion on the forums about these issues. One person wrote, with regard to girls' education, whether there had been better accounting for the enrollment of girls in education. She or he wrote, asking really whether or not I felt that the methods of measuring girls' participation in education had improved over recent years. I plan to write to Lynn Murphy and ask her about that question, but my sense is that we actually have not improved our methods of measuring girls' attendance in school. Most of the measurements sort of letting us know how many girls are getting into school and participating are based on enrollment, just plain enrollment. They are not based on continuing attendance or even what happens to those girls as they go through school. Do they go on into high school? Do they get out? Do they get jobs? We know very little about what happens after girls actually enroll. And if you looked at the video interview with Lynn Murphy during the week that we were talking about education, which is the recent week, week 2, you'll see that Lynn talked at some length about that question of how we measure girls' education. If it's based only on enrollment, then we miscalculate because many more girls enroll on the first day of class than are able to actually stay in school over time. Girls drop out of school for a lot of reasons that are discussed in the materials that we have provided and by Lynn Murphy when she was speaking about this. So in answer to that question from one of our students, no, I don't think that we have improved our ability to measure how many girls are actually getting a useful and appropriate education. The best that people seem to be able to do, and these figures are mostly from the United Nations, has to do with how many girls actually enrolled in school. It's a little like this MOOC, this online course. Many people enroll in this course. Not everyone watches it and takes the course for a statement of accomplishment. A smaller percentage of people actually finish the course. And so too, that is the case with girls and boys who enter school and are enrolled, but may not continue to attend and finish school. It's very hard to measure actually the appropriateness and the numbers that actually go through and get a good education. The other issues that we have been speaking with and reading about in recent couple of weeks are HIV and AIDS and female genital mutilation, two very different injuries, illnesses that affect women's health. First, HIV and AIDS. Gene Richardson spoke about this issue in the interviews that I did with him, and he feels very strongly, not only because he's done research on it, but other people have done research as well, feels strongly that the route to reducing the prevalence of HIV is to educate and empower girls, to increase the equality of girls. And he has done enough research to show that inequality goes along with high HIV rates. It's been shown in a number of countries, and Gene speaks about this during the interview I did with him. I think that more and more people are realizing this connection, the direct connection between women's equal participation in societies with men's and the prevalence of HIV. HIV declines as women have greater participation and more equality in their societies. It's an extremely important connection. With regard to FGM, some people call it female genital mutilation. The World Health Organization refers to the practice as female genital mutilation. Others call it female genital cutting. And there was some discussion on the forums in the last week or two about the use of these terms and the appropriateness of these terms. Some people argued and felt strongly that the term that we should use is female genital cutting because it doesn't seem to be as extreme or perhaps even offensive to people who have been engaged in the practice in one way or another. Others, presumably people at the WHO, the World Health Organization, believe that the term should be female genital mutilation because of the certain practices in certain countries being quite extreme and dangerous to the health and well-being of women. No matter what, the World Health Organization believes that with increased education, particularly about the health effects of FGM, FGC, that this practice will essentially disappear within the next generation or two. That isn't the case at the moment. Many girls are vulnerable to experiencing the practice, but it is being reduced in many countries through legal means, health programs, and increased education. Speaking of education of girls, I wanted to mention an article that I will arrange to have put on our companion website, which is www.internationalwomenshealth.org. It's the companion website to this online course. There you will find newspaper articles, information about organizations that are relevant to this class, and a host of other resources that may be of great interest to you, including some interviews that we thought were they were appropriate, but there were too many of them to, in fact, put on the online course. So we included them over in our companion website, internationalwomenshealth.org. One of the articles that I am making available on that companion website appeared in the New York Times about a week ago, and it has to do with girls' education. It's entitled, Schoolgirls Are Facing More Threats, UN Reports. Attacks against girls attending school or seeking access to education appear to be increasing around the world, despite legal protection of gender equality. The United Nations reported this last week. The article, which, as I said, will appear on our companion website, the article goes on to speak about the numbers of events in many different countries that have constituted direct action by groups threatening girls or even succeeding in injuring girls who are attempting to go to school. And they feel that this threat is increasing, which is surprising and, of course, very unfortunate. But it's very surprising to me because, on the other hand, we do know that education for girls is increasing. More girls are going to school, and maybe that very trend of more girls seeking education and gaining education is a threat to people who don't want to see girls educated. So the threats against the girls seem to be increasing. Anyway, take a look at that article. It's on the companion website. I want to mention that we have had a number of meetings last weekend and the weekend before. Students taking this class have signed up for something called Talk About. In any case, you can get on to Talk About, and there is instruction on the course to say how you can meet with other students at set times, usually over a weekend. There are 4 or 5 set times where you can drop in and link together with 4 or 5 other students in this class and discuss the topics of the class. There are suggested agenda items for those discussions in our discussion toolkits. And we strongly urge you to try to meet up with some of your colleagues in this class. It's fun. The weekend before last, I dropped in on 2 of those meetings and met 4 of the students in each of the groups. There were 4 people, and I was the 5th, who were taking this class, International Women's Health and Human Rights, online, and they wanted to talk with each other. These people, for the most part, were from Canada and the United States. It was the first weekend that we had these Talk About sessions. But now, many more people from many different countries are joining the Talk About sessions. So we urge you to do that yourselves. Some other people have created special groups, Portuguese speakers, people interested in the media, people with various interests that have formed interest groups to discuss international women's health and human rights in a group of widely diverse people. It's fun. It's really delightful. And if you have enough bandwidth, you can actually see your colleagues online. Otherwise, you can hear them and participate in a discussion. So we strongly recommend that you do this. I think by now, about 250 or 300 people have been participating in those Talk About groups. And those numbers will increase as we go over time and people become more familiar with the technology. Well, let me have another sip of my tea from my beautiful teacup. Say again, 新年快乐. Happy Chinese New Year, and I'll see you in a week or 10 days with the next tea time. Bye.